What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Eddie Express DFS podcast presented to you by Draft Dashboard. Remember, you can try out all the tools used on my screen 30 days for $1 by clicking my link in the description below. Gets you access to all this good stuff here. DFS college, top DFS players, position optimizers, sleepers and studs, NFL cheat sheet, mass lineup generator, all that stuff. Here's the cheat sheet for this week. I always show this to my viewers because if you're clicking on my video, this is my way of saying thank you, and I will show you some of the ownership in some of the top plays, some of the mid-range, and some of the value. A lot of this gets updated throughout the week, but here is the initial ownership update here. We'll get into the position optimizer. Before we do so, please click the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos. If you clicked on this link, thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Always love having new viewers. We're going to get right into the picks. First up, I have Drew Brees going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You have heard me for weeks say Tampa Bay is horrible against the pass. I said the same thing last week against Atlanta. It didn't work out, but he's in a good spot. He is priced up, though, $6,900. I'll get a little bit of him. Don't plan on getting a ton. But for the majority of the people that I play, I play 100 lineups, so I put this into a mass lineup generator, stack the quarterbacks and the wide receivers together. I'll show you how to do that at the end of the video here when we run our 100 lineups. Next up, I have Dak Prescott against the Detroit Lions. Dak is 6,700 with a 21.7 projection. Detroit is 27th against the pass and 27th against the run, or again 27th overall. So pretty good matchup for Dak Prescott. Next up, I seem to recommend him every single week, but when's the last time Jameis Winston had a bad game? I'll show you. It's been a long time. Jameis Winston, 6,500, 6% ownership. New Orleans still ranks out 20th against the pass, 9th team total defense, but I still think Jameis Winston's in a pretty good spot this week. My least favorite player in the entire league is probably my favorite DFS play this week, and it's Tom Brady. The Philadelphia Eagles are really, really bad against the pass. They're 17th against quarterbacks, 15th overall. But when we get into the wide receivers, we will show you just how bad they are against the pass. Brady's game log has had 3 straight not good games, but I think he comes out and has a pretty good one this week. At just 2% projected ownership, I want to be there a lot on Tom Brady. He'll probably be the cover photo for this video. Next up, I have Kyle Allen, 9% projected ownership going against the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons 29th against quarterbacks, 26th overall. Projects for an 18.1 value at 5,300. That's an excessive value, so I'll be interested there. Running backs, I'm including Christian McCaffrey again this week. He's 10.5. He's an arm and a leg to get to. He's got a projection of 26, but he's got 32% projected ownership. 16th against running backs is Atlanta, 26th overall. They really struggle against pass-catching running backs, which is exactly what Christian McCaffrey is. I talked about that last week with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was kind of a neutral play at the end of the day, but he kind of got there late as well. Next up, I have Ezekiel Elliott, 10% projected ownership against the Detroit Lions, who are 31st against the run and against the running back position, 27th in team total defense. Zeke Elliott, 9K. I think he's viable. Next up, I have Dalvin Cook at 22% projected ownership. Denver Broncos, 14th against the running back position, 4th overall team total defense, though. But Dalvin Cook just does a little bit of everything here, as you can see. There's games where he doesn't, and that kind of flows with game script. Those were against 2 good run defenses. This one's middle of the pack, so I think you can safely project Dalvin Cook for mid-20s. Our projections have him at 20.5, which I understand because they have a good defense, but I would bump that up a little bit. Next up, I have Le'Veon Bell, 8% projected ownership. I've recommended him almost every single week of every single slate. He's just one of those guys that has big play potential. He's got 40-point upside. He hasn't had it this year. Here's his recency log, 20 and 17, which is pretty solid for 7,200. Going up against the Washington Redskins with the 25th overall defense against running backs and team total defense of 20. Next up, I have Josh Jacobs, 23% projected ownership at 6,900 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals 29th against running backs, 29th team total defense. Next up, I have Tevin Coleman, 12% projected ownership. Matt Breida is out for this game. Expected to miss a week or two. I had some interest in Breida in this week, but he's out, so all that interest will just go to Tevin Coleman. 6,100. Arizona ranks 22 against running backs and 32nd in team total defense. Next up, I have Leonard Fournette against the Indianapolis Colts, 15% projected ownership. Colts are pretty good against the run, pretty good overall team total defense, but Leonard Fournette just gets all the touches in the world, all the pass volume. As you can see, he's pretty much got a safe floor of 20, except for last week. He's a good running back. Next up, I have James White, 6% projected ownership against the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, I like Tom Brady, and I think they're going to throw the ball a lot against Philly. So I think for a value running back, you could get to a guy like James White. Next up, I have Brian Hill. Devontae Freeman's out for this game, and Carolina is 30th against the run. So a guy like Hill for 4,800 makes a lot of sense. Projected ownership is just 3%, but I think he will see some more volume with him on the bench. So I can consider a guy like that for 4,800. Wide receivers. First up, I have Michael Thomas. I would have expected to get a ton of Michael Thomas if DraftKings didn't price him up to almost $10,000. You look at the recency log, 25, 30, 31.2. Great matchup, worst team defense against the position, 31st overall. He's a little spendy, though. I just don't know if I can get to him as much as I want to. I'll probably be right around the field with 11%, but we'll see when we run our optimizers. Next up, I have Amari Cooper, 6% projected ownership. This is Dak's guy. Detroit 21st against wide receivers, 27th in team total defense. If I like Dak, I have to like Cooper. He's his favorite guy. You want that connection. Next up, I have Julian Edelman, 4% projected ownership, 7,600. Eagles 27th against the wide receiver position, 15th overall team total defense. I have a lot of interest in Brady this week, so that is the reason why I have a lot of interest in Julian Edelman. Next up, I have Chris Godwin, 10% projected ownership. The New Orleans Saints ranked 22nd against wide receiver position, 9th overall in team total defense. I'm assuming that Lattimore is going to cover Mike Evans, so I'm more comfortable going to Godwin, and I hope to get away from Lattimore because he's a very good cornerback. Next up to pair up with Kyle Allen is DJ Moore, 18% projected ownership, only 5,900. 26 against the pass, against wide receiver, 26 team overall team total defense. Interest there. Next up, I have Marquise Brown, 7% projected ownership, 22nd team total defense, 29th against the wide receiver position. I think this game will be high scoring. Two very high caliber quarterbacks. I don't know if I can get to either one of them, though, because they are priced up quite a bit. But Marquise Brown is a guy I'm willing to take a chance on. Next up, I have Tyler Boyd. He's just kind of a filler guy, 5,200. Still no A.J. Green yet. Oakland 30th against the pass, 30th overall in team total defense. $5,200 Tyler Boyd is definitely going to be in some of my lineups. Next up, I have Mohamed Sanu, 1% projected ownership. In his first game, he was kind of featured a little bit with the New England Patriots. So I think that we could see him be their wide receiver too, behind Edelman, obviously. I think they're going to go to him more than a guy like Dorsett. I have a ton of interest in Brady, so I'm going to include both of his receivers. Next up, I have Randall Cobb, 8% projected ownership. Detroit 21st against wide receivers. They are also 27th in team total defense. Very interested in Cobb. Had a very good game against my Minnesota Vikings with 26. Next up, Deebo Samuel from the San Francisco 49ers. We talked about Sanders possibly missing this game. It's a very good matchup for the San Francisco 49ers against the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know where their pass volume is going to go, but I'm assuming it's going to go to Deebo Samuel because Sanders was out and he kind of got featured in that. We talked about the defense already, so we don't need to talk about that again. All right, tight end position. First up, I have Darren Waller at 21% projected ownership, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who rank 16th against tight ends, 29th in team total defense. $5,500 price tag, definitely something I'm willing to pay for Darren Waller. Jared Cook, 3% projected ownership, team that ranks 31st against tight ends and 31st overall in Tampa Bay. He caught a touchdown last week. Last time against Tampa Bay, I believe he caught one too because he had 14 points. Greg Olsen, again, another guy you compare with Kyle Allen. He had 18 last week. They ranked 19th against tight ends. O.J. Howard, 1% projected ownership, 13th against tight ends are the New Orleans Saints. 9th overall, though, so pretty good defense. But these kind of games seem to shoot out a little bit, especially games in the NFC South. I just have interest there for 3,600. Same thing for Kyle Rudolph. He's going to be low owned, but he got featured last week. Saw a lot of volume. Caught 2 touchdowns, had a 2-point catch as well, and then a couple other catches. So he got featured in the red zone last week. I'll have a little bit of interest there. Then defenses, I don't like to talk a whole lot about defenses because defense is kind of random. But I like the ones in red. I like the ones with the red X. I don't like. We'll have to switch the Vikings here, but so that's kind of the way I do it for defense. I watch the ones I like and I exclude the ones I don't like. So exclude the Eagles. Alrighty. Lineup optimizer. On DraftKings, if I was building one lineup, I would probably start it out something like this. Kyle Allen, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is a little spendy for me. I think I'd like to get to a James White. McCaffrey, we could feature more. Olsen. I don't know if we want that many Carolina Panthers, but Carolina Panthers definitely in a good spot. We don't need to play Buffalo against Miami. We can go to the Colts. Don't need to play Dalvin Cook in the flex. Get to a guy like Tevin Coleman. So here's a lineup that runs 3 running backs. It's Kyle Allen, James White, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Marquise Brown, DJ Moore, Greg Olsen, Tevin Coleman, Colts defense. On FanDuel, like to get to Tom over here. We'll go Tom, Edelman, McCaffrey, Olsen. I don't think we need to pay that much for defense. Colts seem to be the team that I keep landing on for a defense. Get up from Hill. Get you some James White. Get up from Marquise Brown. Just some Tyler Boyd. This leaves 100 on the table, but Tom Brady, Tevin Coleman, James White, DJ Moore, Julian Edelman, Tyler Boyd, Greg Olsen, Christian McCaffrey, and the Colts defense. So as you can see, the 2 teams that I really like are the Patriots and the Carolina Panthers this week. We'll run 100 lineups real quick here. I like to set my randomness at low. This is a new feature that I like to use with Draft Dashboard. Stack at least one wide receiver with your quarterback. set our maximum exposure at 40%. Randomness none. We'll leave it at 1,000. I'll run this quick and then I'll show you those lineups. Remember, before I do this though, you can get all this stuff right in your hands. 30 days for $1 by clicking my link in the description below. I will leave my PayPal email right below that. If you hit something big, feel free to send me a tip. Doesn't have to be a lot, but I'm always accepting tips. So our lineups are now complete. Here are some of the lineups. We can sort it by projected points. So our top projected point scorer, let's switch it back to DraftKings. I think we're on FanDuel still, but we'll wait for it to load here. We'll get it back to DraftKings. So here we are on DraftKings with our 100 lineups. We'll sort it by projected points. Top projection puts out a 134, 133. So I'll have 100. You can do this for $1. You can make 100 lineups in here. You can pick out what you like, what you don't like. I like to show my exposures as well. So this is the plays that it really likes. Buffalo Bills defense maxed out my exposure at 40%. Same with Marquise Brown, Tyler Boyd, Randall Cobb. Kyle Allen is the favorite of the quarterbacks. Get a little bit of randomness because I forgot to not set that. But where is Tom Brady? Tom Brady at just 5%. So the system doesn't love Tom Brady, but I will manually adjust that to where I get a ton of him, so I can lock him in. So like if I wanted to get into the lineup optimizer, it's real easy. So I could lock in Tom Brady, and for example, we'll say Tyler Boyd. Then every time I hit this randomization button, it'll give me a lineup with Tom Brady and Tyler Boyd. You can save that. You can manually build them. You can do pretty much whatever you want to do to get over and under the fields as you'd like. But that's the way that I do it. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button. If you'd like to try out Draft Dashboard 30 days for $1, you can do so by clicking my link in the description below. Thanks a lot, guys. Have yourselves an awesome weekend, and let's get this money.